Let's start with a number. 32%. Just let that sink in for a moment. That's the percentage of married teenage girls in Pakistan between the ages of 15 and 19 who've experienced physical violence. It's a shocking figure, and it's at the very heart of what we're going to unpack today. So you have to ask, why? Why is this number so stubbornly high, especially for young girls in these communities on the edges of big cities like Lahore? Well, the answer, as you can imagine, is anything but simple. It's because we're not just talking about a problem, we're talking about a crisis that is everywhere, but at the same time, it's often completely hidden, tucked away behind cultural norms and, frankly, silent suffering. Okay, so to really get our heads around this, we need to be clear about what we mean by gender-based violence, or GBV. It's not just one thing. It's a whole spectrum of abuse. We're talking about violence from a partner, about child and early marriage, which is in itself a form of violence. But it's also sexual harassment, it's emotional and economic abuse, and it's so-called honor-based violence. And the key thing here is that these often overlap, creating this constant environment of risk for girls. And one of the biggest, most powerful drivers of this crisis, it's poverty. Just look at this chart. The economic divide it's just staggering. For a girl from one of the poorest families, there's a more than 50% chance she'll be married before she's 18. For a girl from one of the wealthiest families, that risk drops to just 2%. That's not a coincidence. It's a direct line from economic desperation to a girl's safety. And the reason this crisis festers in the dark is because of a crushing combination of social stigma and fear. It means most of this violence goes completely unreported. Some studies suggest that almost 2/3 of teenage survivors never ever ask for help. They're trapped. And so the cycle of abuse just continues, completely unseen. And, the impact of this violence and this silence isn't something that just goes away. The consequences are absolutely devastating and can last an entire lifetime. They can literally steal a girl's future. It sets off this terrible chain reaction. It starts with health, and we're talking about everything from physical injuries to deep psychological trauma like PTSD. Then, because of fear or forced marriage, a girl might get pulled out of school, and just like that, her education is gone. And without that education, she's often trapped in a domestic role with no financial independence, which just fuels the same cycle of poverty that made her vulnerable to begin with. It's a lot, I know. When you hear all that, it's easy to feel, pretty overwhelmed, right? The problem seems so massive, so deeply rooted in culture and poverty in systems that it feels like there's nothing that can be done. But that is not where this story ends. So let's pivot. Let's explore a new way forward. We're going to dive into an innovative approach that doesn't try to use one single fix. Instead, it's about building an entire ecosystem for safety. It's called the Safe Kasur Initiative. Now, this started in the district of Kasur in Punjab, an area that has struggled with high rates of child abuse for a long time. The real magic here is how it combines technology with grassroots, community-led action. This isn't about some outside group imposing a solution. It's about building one from the ground up, with the community itself. Okay, so that sounds good in theory, but how does this thing actually work on the ground? Let's break down the different pieces of this model because the genius is really in the details. And right here, this is where it gets really, really smart. The model totally gets that not everyone has the latest smartphone. So for the 65% of families who rely on those basic feature phones, there's a simple free code you can dial to report abuse. For those who do have smartphones, there's a kid-friendly app that's disguised as a game, but it has a secret panic button. This hybrid approach, part high-tech, part low-tech, is crucial. It means no one gets left out. But look, the tech is just a tool. It's only half the story. The real power comes from who gets those reports. They go to these community watchdog committees, which are made up of local volunteers. And look who they are. Half of them are women, and a good chunk are young people themselves. These are trusted faces from the neighborhood, trained to handle these sensitive cases. That creates real community ownership. The whole process is built for speed and impact. A report comes in either by phone or app. The local watchdogs log it on a secure dashboard. And then, and this is key, the police get access to real-time anonymized data. They can see these heat maps of where incidents are happening, which lets them target their resources where they're needed most. And the result of all this? They cut the time it takes to resolve a case by 1/3. But this isn't just about reacting to a crisis after it happens. The model is also incredibly smart about prevention. And it does this by using channels that people already know and trust. Things like short audio dramas about grooming tactics that get sent to people's phones, or having local religious leaders talk about child protection in their weekly sermons. It's about changing minds from inside the culture, not fighting against it. So, okay, we have this proven model. We know it works in Kasur. The massive question now is, what's next? The path forward is all about taking this success and adapting it for the girls in a place like peri-urban Lahore. The goal is crystal clear. Take what was learned from Safe Kasur and tailor it to the unique challenges of Lahore. But here's the thing. You can't just copy and paste a complex solution like this. You need a crucial preparatory phase, a prepare grant, to do the essential groundwork of working with the community, testing the tech, and building the right partnerships. Now, to plan this out properly, projects like this rely on a powerful tool called a theory of change. I know, it sounds a little academic, but stick with me. It's really just a common sense blueprint. It's a way to map out super clearly the logical steps that connect your investment to your final goal. And here's what that blueprint actually looks like in practice. It's a simple, logical path. You start with your inputs. That's the funding, the partnerships. Those inputs let you perform activities, like workshops and tech development. Those activities give you measurable outputs, like the number of teens you trained or help desks you set up. And all of that builds towards the ultimate impact, a real, measurable, and sustainable reduction in violence. It connects every single action to the final goal. And this brings us right back to where we started, but with a sense of real hope. The Safe Kasur model shows us what's possible when you brilliantly merge smart technology with deep community trust. It's proof that even the most difficult, heartbreaking problems are not unsolvable. So the question it leaves us with is a really powerful one. If you can make this work on one place, could this be the blueprint we've been looking for to protect vulnerable girls not just in Lahore, but everywhere?